The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council had seen many things in its 10,000 years. Wars had been declared here. Peace had been made. Empires had risen and fallen, while the 12 seats remained filled with the representatives of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. But the chamber had never seen anything like this. Ambassador Yelena Vasquez stood at the speaking platform. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind her sat the entire human delegation, their bags already packed, their faces calm. The holographic displays showed Earth's blue marble spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, Vasquez began. Her voice was steady. There was no anger in it, no sadness, just a quiet certainty that made several council members shift in their seats. On behalf of the United Earth Government, I am here to announce humanity's withdrawal from all council treaties, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts, effective immediately. Silence filled the chamber. It lasted for exactly 3 heartbeats. Then the Valkyrie Archon laughed. He was a tall being, with scales the color of burnt copper and eyes like yellow flames. The Valkyrie had been warriors for longer than humans had been walking upright. A negotiating tactic, he said, his voice rumbling through the chamber. Clever, but transparent. What do you really want, Ambassador? Better trade terms? A seat on the Security Committee? Vasquez looked at him. Her expression did not change. This is not a negotiation, Archon. This is a notification. The Thessian delegate leaned forward. The Thessians were ancient beings of light and crystal, their forms shifting like water in sunlight. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding, she said, her voice like wind chimes. No species has ever left the Council voluntarily. The benefits of membership are too great. Surely you wish to discuss terms. There is nothing to discuss, Vasquez replied. We have made our decision. The insectoid Kathrani delegate clicked her mandibles in confusion. Her species communicated through a complex language of sounds and movements that most other species found difficult to follow. Through her translator she asked, "What is the reason for this action? We do not understand." Vasquez was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her words were simple. We have realized that we want different things. The chamber erupted into noise. The Marath delegate, a being that looked like a walking tree with eyes of amber, called for order. The Valkyrie Archon demanded explanations. The Thessian delegate tried to propose an emergency mediation session. Through it all, Vasquez stood silent. She waited until the noise died down. Then she simply said, "Thank you for 90 years of membership. We wish you well." The human delegation rose as one and followed her toward the great doors. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. "You cannot simply leave," the Valkyrie Archon called after her. His voice had lost its amusement. "There are procedures, protocols. You must give reasons. You must submit to an exit review." Vasquez stopped at the door. She turned back one last time. "The Council taught us many things," she said. "One of them was that procedures and protocols matter more than action. We have decided to unlearn that lesson." The doors closed behind her. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the Thessian delegate said what everyone was thinking. "They will come back. They must. Where else would they go?" The Council voted to wait. Over the following weeks, humanity moved with a quiet efficiency that surprised everyone. Human diplomats closed their embassies on every Council world. They packed their belongings, shook hands with their alien colleagues, and boarded ships heading home. Human scientists withdrew from joint research stations. They handed over their notes, completed their current projects, and said polite goodbyes. Human traders settled their accounts, honored their existing contracts, and then did not sign new ones. Human military vessels withdrew from patrol routes they had shared with Council forces. They sent formal notifications to their allied commanders, thanked them for their service, and vanished into the darkness between stars. On the space station orbiting the gas giant Thessia Prime, a Thessian scientist named Verith watched the last human research ship depart. She had worked with humans for 30 years. A human colleague named James had become something like a friend to her, though Thessians did not use that word easily. "I do not understand," she said to herself, as the ship's lights grew smaller and smaller. What did we do wrong? The question hung in the air. No answer came. On the Valkyrie border worlds, Admiral Kethvorn received the notification that human ships would no longer patrol the neutral zone. He read it 3 times, certain it was some kind of error. Humans had always been eager to volunteer for the dangerous patrols. They had never complained about the long hours, or the low pay, or the lack of recognition. "Good riddance," he said finally, though his voice lacked conviction. "We do not need them." But when he looked at his patrol schedules, he realized he would need to double the shifts of his own ships to cover the gap. Ships that were already tired. Crews that were already stretched thin. On the agricultural world of Morath 7, the farmers watched human cargo ships leave for the last time. Those ships had carried hybrid seeds that humans had helped develop. Seeds that grew faster, produced more, and needed less water. The humans had shared the technology freely, asking for nothing in return. "Will they send more seeds next season?" a young Morath asked his father. His father did not answer. He just watched the ships disappear into the clouds. Back on Earth, Yellen Vasquez stood on the balcony of her home in Geneva. She was retired now. Her work was done. Below her, the city hummed with life. Above her, the stars burned cold and distant. Her assistant, a young man named David, joined her. "The council has voted to wait us out," he reported. "They think we will come back." Vasquez smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a peaceful one. "We waited for 90 years, she said. "We waited for them to see us as equals. We waited for them to let us help. We waited for them to understand that compassion is not weakness." She turned to look at him. "We are done waiting." David nodded. "What do we do now?" Vasquez looked up at the stars. Somewhere, out there, beyond Council space, were billions of beings who had never heard of the Galactic Council. Beings who might need help. Beings who might want friends. "Now," she said, "we go find out what else is out there." In the great chamber of the Galactic Council, humanity's chair sat empty. A small plaque on the back still read Earth in 12 different languages. Nobody moved it. Nobody sat in it. They were still waiting for humanity to come back. 6 standard months passed. The Galactic Council continued its work. Treaties were signed. Disputes were settled. Trade routes were maintained. Everything continued as it always had. Except for the silence. Human space had gone dark. Not hostile. Not closed. Simply quiet. The communication channels remained open. The trade routes still existed on every map. But no human ships traveled them. No human voices answered calls. It was as if an entire species had simply decided to stop talking. At first, the Council species told themselves it did not matter. Humans were young. They had only been part of galactic society for 90 years. The galaxy had existed for billions of years before them. It would continue for billions more. But slowly, quietly, the absence began to make itself known. On Thessia Prime, the great medical research institute faced a crisis. For decades, human doctors and scientists had worked alongside Thessian researchers. The humans had a strange gift for medical science. Where Thessians approached healing as an art, humans approached it as a puzzle to be solved. They asked questions nobody else thought to ask. They tried treatments nobody else would consider. Now those humans were gone. Their laboratories stood empty. Their research notes remained, but without them, the notes felt incomplete, like a song missing its melody. "We have reached a dead end," Director Verith reported to the Institute's board. The human approach to the Kethvori plague was unconventional, but it was working. Without them, we cannot continue. "Find other researchers," the board chairman suggested. Verith shook her head. "There are no other researchers like them. They thought differently. I do not know how to explain it. They saw connections that we could not see." The board voted to continue without human help. 3 months later, the Kethvori plague claimed another 10,000 lives. In Valkyrie space, Admiral Kethvorn faced his own problems. The patrol routes the humans had covered were now his responsibility. His ships were not enough. His crews were exhausted. Incidents that human ships would have prevented now escalated into conflicts. "Request reinforcements from the Council," Kethvorn ordered. His aide looked uncomfortable. "Sir, the Council has already denied 3 such requests. They say we must manage our own borders." "The humans managed these borders for 50 years without complaint," Kethvorn growled. "They never asked for recognition. They never demanded payment. They simply did the work because it needed to be done." He stared out at the stars. "We called them young and foolish. Now who is foolish?" On Morath 7 the harvest season came. For the first time in 40 years, the yields were lower than expected. The hybrid seeds that humans had developed were running out. The patents were human-owned, and without new shipments, the farmers had to return to older, less productive varieties. "Can we not copy the human seeds?" a young farmer asked. The elder shook his head. "We could try, but the humans did not just give us seeds. They gave us knowledge. They taught us how to care for the new plants. Without them, we are guessing in the dark." The harvest that year was 20% smaller than the year before. It would only get worse. But perhaps no species felt the absence more deeply than the Kethrani. The insectoid race had always been considered strange by other council members. Their art was incomprehensible to most species. Their music sounded like noise. Their literature was written in chemicals and movements that other beings could not perceive. Only the humans had tried to understand. Human scholars had spent decades learning Kethrani art forms. Human musicians had collaborated with Kethrani composers. Human writers had translated Kethrani poetry into forms that other species could appreciate. Now that bridge was gone. "We performed our new symphony last night," Kethrani composer Threx Kala reported to her hive mother. The audience was small. Only other Kethrani attended. "No one else understands our music anymore." The hive mother was silent for a long moment. Did the humans understand? "They tried," Threx Kala replied. "They always tried. Even when they failed, they tried again. I did not realize how much that mattered, until they stopped." Across the council worlds, rumors spread. In Rs and markets and quiet corners, people whispered about why humanity had really left. Some said the humans had discovered something terrible in deep space, a threat so vast that they had retreated to prepare for war. Others said they had found something wonderful, a paradise beyond the stars that they wanted to keep for themselves. A few believed the humans were building weapons, secret fleets, hidden armies, preparing to return and conquer the galaxy that had dismissed them. The Council tried to find the truth. They sent an observation probe to the Sol system. The probe was not blocked. It was not attacked. It simply traveled to Earth and recorded what it saw. The footage showed a world that was thriving. Cities spread across continents. Ships launched from dozens of spaceports. Stations orbited the Moon and Mars and the outer planets. Humans moved through their world with purpose and energy. They were not dying. They were not hiding. They were not preparing for war. They were building something. But what? The Council debated the footage for weeks. The Valkyrie insisted it was a deception. The Thessians proposed sending a diplomatic mission. The Morath suggested economic incentives to bring humans back into the fold. The Kethrani delegate said something that made everyone uncomfortable. Perhaps, she clicked slowly, they are simply happy without us. The chamber fell silent. It was a thought that none of them had considered. The idea that humanity might not miss the council, that they might not want to come back, that their lives might be better, not worse, since leaving. It was a thought that kept many council members awake at night. On Earth, Ambassador Vasquez received reports about the council's debates. She read them carefully, then set them aside. There was work to be done, real work, important work. In her office, maps showed regions of space that the council had never explored, worlds that had never been contacted, civilizations that had never been offered help. The galaxy is very large, and we have wasted 90 years in one small corner of it. Let us see what else is out there. The first human exploration ships launched 3 days later. They traveled in directions that council species had never considered interesting. They carried no weapons, only medicine, food, and a simple message. We are here to help. What do you need? The silence in council space grew deeper. But beyond its borders, in the vast unknown reaches of the galaxy, something new was beginning. Humanity had not disappeared. They had simply decided to be useful somewhere else. And the galaxy was very, very large. Historian Counselor Thexala of the Morath was old, even by her species' long standards. She had served on the Galactic Council for 300 years. She had watched empires rise and fall. She had seen wars begin and end. She had witnessed countless species join the Council, full of hope and ambition, but she had never seen a species leave. The question of why humanity departed haunted her. It kept her awake during the long Morath nights. It followed her through the ancient libraries of her homeworld. It whispered to her whenever she saw the empty chair in the council chamber. So she decided to find out. Thexala began her research in the council archives. Every meeting, every vote, every debate had been recorded for 10,000 years. Somewhere in those records was the answer. Somewhere was the moment when humanity had decided to leave. She started with humanity's first contact. A human ship had stumbled into Thessian space by accident. The Thessians had been curious about these strange, short-lived creatures, who seemed so eager to explore. They had invited humans to join the council. The records showed that humans had been excited. Their ambassador at the time, a man named Okonkwo, had called it the greatest day in human history. He had promised that humanity would be a good partner, a helpful friend, a loyal ally. Thexala read those words and felt a deep sadness. What had happened to those hopes? She continued her research, year by year, meeting by meeting, vote by vote. The pattern began to emerge slowly. At first she did not want to see it, but the records were clear. The truth was undeniable. Humanity had come to the council with ideas, so many ideas. They had proposed refugee resettlement programs for species displaced by war. They had offered to share their jump drive technology with everyone, freely, without payment. They had suggested new approaches to first contact with primitive species. Every single proposal had been rejected. Thexala found the records of the refugee debates. 17 times, humans had proposed programs to help the homeless beings who drifted between stars. 17 times, the council had voted no. The reasons were always the same. Too expensive, too complicated, not our responsibility. She found the technology sharing discussions. Humans had developed a new type of faster-than-light drive. It was efficient and safe. They had offered to give it to every council species for free. The council had refused. Such a gift would destabilize existing trade relationships. The Velkari had been especially against it. Free technology would reduce their military advantage. She found the first contact proposals. Humans had wanted to reach out to new species, to offer help and friendship to civilizations just beginning to explore space. The Council had blocked them. First contact was too important to trust to such a young species. Humans lacked experience. They might make mistakes. But the record that hurt most was the Pale Reach genocide. The Pale Reach was a region of space controlled by a cruel empire called the Vethnar. They had been exterminating a smaller species called the Tholani for decades. Millions had died. The Tholani had begged the Council for help. Humans had responded immediately. They had proposed military intervention. When that failed, they proposed economic sanctions. When that failed, they proposed humanitarian corridors to rescue survivors. The Council had debated each proposal for months. Procedures had to be followed. Protocols had to be observed. Votes had to be scheduled and rescheduled. While the Council debated, the Vethnar continued their genocide. 3 million more Tholani died waiting for help that never came. In the end, humanity had acted alone. They had sent ships to rescue survivors without Council permission. They had saved 40,000 Tholani lives. The Council had censured them for unilateral action. Thexala found the transcript of that censure meeting. She read the words of the human ambassador, who had stood before the Council, defending her people's actions. "We could not stand by and watch innocent people die," the ambassador had said. "Is that not why we joined this council? To help those who need help?" The Valkyrie Archon had replied coldly, "You are young. You do not understand how the galaxy works. Help must be given properly, through proper channels, or it is not help at all. It is interference." Thexala closed the file. Her eyes burned with a feeling she had not experienced in centuries. Shame. It took her 3 weeks to write. When she finished, she presented it to the full council. The chamber was quiet as she spoke. She showed them the numbers. 17 rejected refugee proposals, 23 blocked technology transfers, 41 overruled intervention requests, 90 years of humanity trying to help, and 90 years of the Council saying no. "We taught them that their compassion was a flaw," Thexala concluded. "We taught them that procedure mattered more than people. We taught them that helping others was wrong unless it was done our way." She paused. "They believed us for 90 years, then they stopped believing." The Valkyrie Archon shifted in his seat. They were too young a species to understand proper procedure. Their proposals were reckless, poorly thought out. We were protecting them from their own mistakes. Thexala looked at him. Or were we protecting ourselves from having to change? The Archon did not answer. The Thessian delegate spoke softly. Her light flickered with something that might have been regret. "They kept trying. For 90 years they kept proposing, kept hoping, kept believing we would eventually say yes." She paused. "We never did, and now they have stopped asking." The Kethrani delegate clicked sadly. "They understood our art when no one else would try. They helped our sick when no one else cared. They patrolled our borders when no one else volunteered." She looked around the chamber. "What did we give them in return?" Nobody answered. The council debated Thexala's report for hours. Some dismissed it, some denied it. Some blamed humanity for being too impatient, too emotional, too young. But others sat in silence, looking at the empty chair, understanding for the first time what they had lost. They had left because they had finally accepted a simple truth. The council would never let them be who they wanted to be. So they went somewhere else. Somewhere they could help without permission. Somewhere they could care without being censured. Somewhere their compassion was not treated as a disease to be cured. Thexala returned to her quarters that night. She stood at her window, looking up at the stars. "I am sorry," she whispered to the darkness. "We should have listened. We should have changed. We should have let you help." The stars did not answer. Somewhere beyond them, Humanity was building something new, and the Council had no one to blame but themselves. The Catherine scout vessel, Song of Distant Stars, was dying. Its engines had failed 3 days ago. A collision with debris in unmapped space had torn through the hull. Life support was failing. Communications were damaged. The crew of 12 had done everything they could, but they were running out of time. Captain Threxvorn sent the distress signal, knowing it was probably useless. They were far from Council space, far from any known shipping lanes. The chances of anyone hearing them were small. The chances of anyone reaching them in time were even smaller. "How long do we have?" asked her second officer, a young Catherine named Kethela. 6 hours of air," Threxvorn replied. "Perhaps 8 if we reduce activity." The crew gathered in the main chamber. They said their farewells to each other. They composed final messages to their hive mothers. They prepared to die with dignity, as Kethrani tradition demanded. Then the sensors detected a ship. At first, Threxvorn thought it was a malfunction. The ship was too far away. It was traveling too fast. No known vessel could reach them in time. But the ship kept coming. It dropped out of faster-than-light travel and matched course with the wounded Song of Distant Stars. A message came through the damaged communication system. "Kethrani vessel, this is the hospital ship Quiet Mercy. We received your distress signal. Prepare for emergency docking. Help is coming." The voice spoke in perfect Kethrani, but the ship's identification code was human. Threxvorn did not understand. Humans had left Council space. They had cut all contact. They had no reason to help a Kethrani vessel. They had no obligation, no treaty, no agreement. Yet here they were. The Quiet Mercy docked with practiced efficiency. Human engineers in emergency suits moved through the wounded ship, sealing breaches and restoring life support. Human doctors treated the injured crew members with gentle hands and calm voices. Within 2 hours, the Song of Distant Stars was stable. Within 4 hours, it was repaired enough to travel. Captain Threxvorn requested a meeting with the human commander. She was brought to the Quiet Mercy's bridge, where an older human woman waited. "I am Commander Chen," the woman said. She had gray hair and kind eyes. "Welcome aboard." Threxvorn struggled to find words. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why did you help us? We are not your allies. We are not your friends. Your people left the Council. You have no duty to us." Chen smiled. It was a warm smile, but also sad. "We received a distress signal. That is reason enough. But the Council—" "We did not leave because we stopped caring about Council species," Chen interrupted gently. "We left because the Council kept stopping us from helping. Out here, no one stops us." She led Threxvorn on a tour of the ship. The Quiet Mercy was enormous. Its medical bays could treat thousands of patients. Its cargo holds were filled with food, medicine, and emergency supplies. Its crew came from every corner of human space. "This is one of 47 ships in the Outstretched Hand Initiative," Chen explained. "We patrol the borders of known space. We respond to distress signals. We help whoever needs help." "The Council does not know about this?" "The Council does not care about this space. They consider it empty, unimportant." Chen's smile grew wider. "They are wrong." She showed Threxvorn records of humanity's work over the past 18 months. First contact with 7 civilizations that the Council had never discovered. Medical aid to 3 species suffering from plagues the Council had ignored. Food shipments to colonies that had been abandoned during ancient wars. "We terraformed 2 dead worlds," Chen said proudly. "They will be ready for settlement in 10 years. We are offering them to anyone who needs a home. No payment required, no treaties demanded. Just a place to live." Threxvorn stared at the data. This is massive. How did we not know?" "Because you were not looking," Chen shrugged. The Council watches Council Space. We are building something new outside of it. But why? Why do all this work for beings who are not even your own species? Chen was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. We got tired of asking permission to help people. The Council had so many rules, so many procedures, so many reasons why we could not do what needed to be done. She looked at Threxvorn with steady eyes. Out here, there are no rules except one. If someone needs help, we help them. It is that simple. Threxvorn thought about the Galactic Council. She thought about the endless debates, the blocked proposals, the censured actions. She thought about her own people's suffering when the Council refused to act. The Council believes you left because you were angry, she said slowly, because you wanted to punish them. Chen shook her head. We are not angry. We are not seeking punishment. We simply realized that the galaxy is very large, and the Council is very small. She gestured at the stars visible through the bridge windows. We decided to go where we were wanted, where we could be useful, where we could be ourselves. Before Threxvorn departed, Chen gave her a gift, a small data crystal containing records of humanity's projects. Maps of their new settlements, footage of their first contacts, evidence of everything they had built in 18 months. Show this to your people, Chen said. Show it to anyone who wants to see. We have nothing to hide. Threxvorn returned to her ship. The song of distant stars limped back to Council Space, its crew alive, because strangers had chosen to help without being asked. When they arrived home, Threxvorn shared the data crystal with everyone she could. Other Kethrani, friends in other species, news services that were willing to listen. The footage spread across the Council worlds, despite official attempts to suppress it. Beings watched humans treating the sick and feeding the hungry. They watched humans making first contact with new civilizations, offering friendship instead of demands. They watched humans building homes for the homeless, asking nothing in return. The comments came flooding in. Why did they not do this for us? Why did we let them go? But the most common comment was simpler. It was a question that made Council leaders very uncomfortable. Could we join them? On Earth, reports arrived about the spreading footage. Human leaders watched with quiet satisfaction. This was not revenge. It was not politics. It was simply truth. They were building something new, something good, and anyone who wanted to help was welcome. The door was open. It had always been open. Now, the galaxy was finally starting to notice. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the largest in 300 years. Every species sent their highest representatives. Every seat was filled, except one. The empty human chair seemed to watch them all. Velkari Archon Kethmaros stood at the speaking platform. His scales were dark with anger. His voice boomed through the chamber. Humanity is a threat to galactic stability, he declared. They are building a rival power structure outside our borders. They are making alliances with unknown species. They are spreading their influence without our approval. He slammed his fist on the podium. We must act. We must bring them back under control, by force if necessary. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some voices agreed. Others were uncertain. The Thessian delegate rose. Her crystalline form flickered with complicated emotions. Military action against humanity would be catastrophic. Their technology may be young, but their determination is not. They would fight. Many would die on both sides. She paused. And for what? Because they chose to help people we ignored? They are undermining our authority, the Archon insisted. What authority? The Kethrani delegate clicked sharply. We have authority over Council Space. They are not in Council Space. They left. We cannot force them to return. Then we must offer incentives, the Marath delegate suggested. His ancient bark creaked as he leaned forward. Better trade terms, recognition, a seat on the security committee. Surely there is something they want. We tried that. Historian Thexala said quietly. For 90 years, we tried to give them what we thought they wanted. We never asked what they actually needed. The debate continued for hours. Plans were proposed and rejected. Accusations were made. Old grievances were aired. The chamber grew hot with tension. Then something unexpected happened. 3 minor species rose and requested permission to speak. The Vethkai, the Tholani, the marsh dwellers of Proxima 7. Small peoples with small voices, easily overlooked in the great debates of the council. The Vethkai representative spoke first. She was frail and old, a survivor of the famine that had killed 40 million of her people decades ago. When my people starved, we begged the council for help. You debated for 3 months. Millions died while you discussed procedures. Her voice cracked. The humans sent food ships anyway. You censured them for it. Now you wonder why they left? The Tholani representative was next. His species had nearly been wiped out in the Pale Reach genocide. Humans saved 40,000 of us when the council refused to act. They were the only ones who cared, the only ones who tried. He looked around the chamber. We remember who did not. The marsh dweller spoke last. His people were poor and unimportant by council standards. Human doctors cured a plague on our world 5 years ago. They asked for nothing in return, not trade rights, not political influence, nothing. He spread his webbed hands. We have received an invitation from Earth, an offer to join their new initiative. We are accepting. Silence fell over the chamber. You are leaving the council? The Archon demanded. We are, the marsh dweller confirmed, as are the Vethkai and the Tholani. And we are not the only ones considering it. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted questions. Accusations flew. The Archon demanded order. Nobody listened. In the midst of the chaos, a message arrived. A single human ship was requesting permission to address the council. The ship was small, unarmed. It carried only 1 passenger. The council voted to allow it. They had no other choice. Ambassador Yellen Vasquez walked into the chamber 2 hours later. She looked older than before, more tired. But her eyes were still clear, and her voice was still steady. She stood at the speaking platform where she had announced humanity's departure 2 years ago. She looked around at the faces watching her. Some were angry, some were afraid, some were hopeful. I will not waste your time, she began. I am not here to negotiate. I am not here to make demands. I am here to deliver a message. She took a deep breath. We do not hate you. We are not your enemy. We are not building weapons or armies or fleets to attack you. That was never who we were. That was never what we wanted. She paused. We left because we realized that waiting for the galaxy to become what we hoped it could be was costing us the chance to build it ourselves. Every year we spent asking permission was a year we could have spent helping people. Every proposal you rejected was a chance to save lives that we lost. Her voice softened. We got tired of losing those chances. The chamber was silent. In 2 years, we have made first contact with 12 new civilizations. We have cured plagues on 7 worlds. We have fed billions of hungry people. We have given homes to refugees that no one else wanted. Vasquez smiled slightly. We are not doing this to show you up. We are doing this because it needs to be done, because no one else was doing it. Because we finally stopped asking permission and started acting. She looked directly at the Velkari Archon. You are welcome to join us, any of you, all of you. The door is open. It was never closed. We are not asking you to surrender. We are not demanding tribute. We are simply offering you a chance to be part of something new, something better. She stepped down from the platform. Argue about it for as long as you need. We will be here, building, helping, growing. She walked toward the door. When you are ready, you know where to find us. She left. The council sat in silence for a long time. Nobody knew what to say. The Archon opened his mouth several times, but found no words. Finally, Historian Thexala spoke. "They are not asking us to admit we were wrong," she said softly. "They are not asking for apologies or punishment. They are simply asking us to choose who we want to be." She looked at the empty chair. "For 10,000 years, this council has preserved the status quo. We have maintained order. We have followed procedures. We have done things the way they have always been done." She paused. "Perhaps it is time to ask if the way things have always been done is the way they should be done." The session ended without a vote, without resolution. But that night, across 12 homeworlds, beings looked up at the stars and thought about what they had heard. They thought about the humans who had left, the humans who were building something new, the humans who had opened a door and were simply waiting for others to walk through. Some were afraid of change. Some were angry at being challenged. Some clung to the old ways because the old ways were comfortable. But others wondered. Others hoped. Others began to dream of a galaxy that worked differently. A galaxy where helping people was not a crime. A galaxy where compassion was not weakness. A galaxy where the question was not, do we have permission, but does someone need help? On Earth, Yelena Vasquez watched the sunset from their balcony. Her work was done. She had delivered the message. The rest was up to the galaxy. "Do you think they will come?" her assistant David asked. Vasquez smiled. "Some will. Eventually. The door is open. It will stay open. And every time someone walks through, it will become easier for the next person." She looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Change takes time. We learned that. But change also starts somewhere. With someone. With a single step through an open door. She turned to go inside. "We took our step 2 years ago. Now we wait and build and hope." The stars burned bright above her. Somewhere among them, a new future was being born. A future where helping others was not something to apologize for. A future where compassion was not a flaw to be corrected. A future that humanity had stopped asking permission to build. The door was open. All the galaxy had to do was walk through.